Hello, Internet friends. Welcome back once again, and thank you for joining. Today, I want to talk about the way that you can change your expectations and the way that you can uh, increase the level of your proficiency and use that as a form of motivation. So there's a lot of times, I talked about this a little bit earlier when I discussed the idea of loving the journey and embracing the method of getting better at something, and kind of committing yourself to the process, because you are never guaranteed a specific outcome. But there is also appropriate times where you want to find motivation in what you're doing. If you were in a bit of a slump for a while, if the weights aren't going up, if the process itself is getting more and more difficult, and it's more difficult to see positive progress, sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes you're going through a point in time where the progress isn't very obvious, and you have to look for different ways to recognize it and to stay positively motivated while you're moving forward. And for me, at least in this training block, it's really been a lot about trying to improve my proficiency in the lifts, not just put weight on the bar that I've done before and move towards those heavier weights. Yeah, we're putting more weight on the bar each week. On this particular week, you're going to see that we tapered the volume down a little bit and increased some of the intensity. So instead of doing a 5x5 on this first day, I was doing 5 triples, which is much more in my comfort zone. I felt really good about most of these. I felt like I was able to stabilize and be more consistent with each of the reps. They're not all perfect, but looking back on what they were like a few months ago, or even extremely looking back at how my squat used to look years and years ago, I can find some points within those where I can look at this and say, yeah, even if the weight is similar, comparable, even if I'm even working around some of the same or similar volumes, there are some big improvements here that can act as markers towards a higher potential further down. So I've talked about this a little bit, where you a lot of the time when you're improving your technical capacity and trying to improve your ability to perform these movements well, or in most pursuits, whenever you're trying to improve your base level of ability at something, it's not necessarily to get to do more right now. It's about developing a system that can help you find more success further down the road. It's about sacrificing the egotistical you in this moment and digging in and suffering just a little bit so that you can better prepare yourself to perform at a higher level later down the road and in the future. And with powerlifting specifically, that tends to manifest in technical proficiency growing. And so for me, trying to work on keeping my hips underneath me in the squat, trying not to let my bar path get out of line, trying not to let my hips shoot back when I get to the bottom, bracing more effectively, tracking my knees better, allowing less internal rotation with the knee and the ankle, and focusing on consistency and depth, focusing on trying to make the reps look similar to one another, and removing a whole lot of variance so that every time I know that I'm about to do a squat rep, it's going to look as close to the same as every other squat rep. And so that's a lot of things to take in, it's a lot of things to think about, but the result has been not only utilizing the ability to move more weight, but here's that part that I was going to talk about, where you can be motivated by seeing those technique improvements even if you're not using more weight or doing a whole lot more volume. Because if the quality of the reps that you're doing has improved, your control of the weight has improved, if your ability to perform the action is fundamentally better, more sound, is cleaner, is stricter, then you have improved. And you can find motivation in that, saying that, okay, I'm back to where I was, but now this time in that same range of performance, I'm operating at a higher capacity. I'm operating at a much better level that is going to allow me to progress further than I had before, and that's really how I feel. I'm also taking into consideration that my body weight is still lower. This week I was averaging 212-pound weigh-ins. I got down towards the end of the week to 200, sub 212 pounds. So it's looking more and more like the 205 class is going to be a possibility for me, and I'm not going to have to worry about being a chub churro up at 231, which I feel like would be a pretty fluffy class for me if I was to try and push to that. So we'll see. I've got some time to worry about that specifically, and Eric's got my nutrition on lockdown, and we've got plenty of time to worry about that. But I will say that during the summer, when I got down to this kind of body weight, my comfortability and my ability to feel like I was technically consistent with the repetitions that I was doing in all my lifts felt like it really was just non-existent. I just felt less confident when I would put my belt on and try to go through the same motor patterns that now feel just as natural at 212 pounds of body weight as they did when I weighed 220 or 222, even when I was hitting some of those all-time PRs after my last meet. And granted, some of those weights that I was using, most of those weights that I was using, were a bit higher than what I've been playing around with, but the technical proficiency has improved now, and I saw that in those squats. 5 triples at 525. I don't think it's looked that consistent in a while. Definitely not looked that consistent at this kind of a body weight. And then you're going to see some 655 doubles here on the stiff bar deadlifts, and honestly, I can't remember the last time that I was able to comfortably do this weight on the stiff bar for multiple reps and also overcome some little challenges. You're going to see that the left side of the bar is going to be rolling away from me for most of the sets in this session. I found a little bit of a divot on the platform that I'm going to be trying to move away from, but at the same time, none of these doubles were nearly as limiting as I felt like they could have been. And especially coming off of my last training block before getting into this one, this weight is just very comfortable right now. I feel grip is strong, back positioning is much improved. When I look at that side angle, it looks so much better than it did even when I weighed 10 pounds more and was using a deadlift bar. And I get a lot out of a deadlift bar. I get quite a bit of assistance from the first couple of inches where that deadlift bar comes and really kind of ramps up off the ground. It lets me get my hips a little bit lower, but watching the side-by-side comparison of this and even some videos from like 6 months ago, it's crazy to me how much more in control of my back position I feel, how much more I'm able to get into a solid start position, and I was having some pretty good sets in that time, but I feel like I'm able to do more because of some of the attention that I've spent at some of these lighter weights, and kind of this reset with the focus on really improving technical proficiency, improving positioning, and focusing more on building the lifts as specific lifts and worrying less about the weight that's on the bar is just going to continue to improve my ability to push through it. I will say that the bench pressing you're going to see was not quite as comfortable. On this day, for some reason, I was having some real trouble cueing my upper back tightness on the bench. I think I was just nervous because hitting 315 for sets of 4 is something that I definitely haven't done in a while, and it's something that I never did consistently. Even when I was at my strongest, I would either go for higher weights for whatever the rep schemes, but trying to control this weight for this specific kind of rep range is a little bit odd for where I guess I thought that I would be at this point. But I will say, spoiler alert for the next set of workouts that you're going to see, I handled 320 for 5 triples on Friday. Much, much, much better, where I was even long pausing some of the third reps, and every single set of that looked and felt much better than these did. And again, if I was to look back and see some of the bench pressing that I was doing before this training block and before I was really putting a little bit more attention and effort, because I've always tried to improve my technical proficiency at the lifts, but some of the added focus I've done with taking off the pressure of what weight is on the bar and really just working on getting better at the activity itself, like getting better at the movements and getting better at those very technical aspects, has allowed me to see real growth in those areas and build those motor patterns up more effectively, more efficiently, and hopefully opened up more of a potential in those higher ends. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you found this helpful and maybe a little bit insightful on kind of some of the ways that I've been thinking about my training to stay excited about the progress, even if it's not as obvious as looking back and saying I'm hitting all-time PRs. I'm hitting rep cleanliness PRs. I'm hitting technique improvement PRs, and the weights are starting to come back on too. So I'm excited. It's very encouraging, and I also want to say thank you to those of you who have, been sticking around and staying supportive and consistent throughout your watching. It really does inspire me even more and make me want to continue to make these videos because, I do them partly for me, but I also do them for you guys. And so if you guys feel like this is beneficial to you, go ahead and let me know, and I'll keep doing it. Also, I do want to make an announcement. Go ahead and check the description box. There is my acapella group 2020. We just released our first single. We went and did a recording of it. It's our version of Gnarls Barkley's Crazy, and we're doing a GoFundMe for our first EP album. So that would be a way, if you wanted to check that out, at least listen to the song. If you like it, then that'd be cool to just listen. It's our gift to you. And if you feel like you want to support the group and hear some more stuff like that in the future, you can directly support the album recording that's going to be happening hopefully in December, depending on how the GoFundMe goes. So thank you guys very much for that, and I will talk to you all very soon. I hope you're having a great day. Bye.